speaker on the conference, and I want to share with you the lessons from great enduring leaders and organizations when it comes to culture, business, and digital transformation. Several of our speakers have done a wonderful job of setting the stage for us today, but I'd like to get a little bit more practical with our audience and share not the theories about change and innovation and acceleration of transformation, but I want to give you the insights that we have learned from the real practitioners. So changing heads here to the connected worker, if you will, and that's the persona that we're going to take on right now. And the title of this presentation, I'm going to share with you right now here. The title of this presentation is Enterprise Agile Planning, Accelerating Excellence, Innovation, and Transformations that Create Value. I'm going to go through this at a pretty good pace because I know we have a very qualified audience here with us, leaders of excellence, of innovation and transformation. So I want to go at a very good pace. There is a lot of depth to every one of these components, but I want to give you a big overview with some insights, specific insights on leadership skills that need to be developed for you to be successful. And this is one of the key takeaways that we're going to see here. The other component that's important to highlight is that it's these organizations that I'm going to share with you here. They are not all great enduring organizations that are forever, excellent on whatever they do. The hardest thing, harder than achieving excellence is to maintain excellence, because it requires that continuous improvement spirit of excellence, of innovation, of transformation. But I have to give credit to these organizations because they're fundamental in our understanding and knowledge of how great enduring organizations achieve that level of excellence. And then we're going to build on that, and we're going to talk about sustainable levels of excellence, innovation, and meaningful transformations. So this is based on more than 50,000 cross-industry leaders that I have had the pleasure to personally train on excellence and innovation and transformation, and most important, collaborate with them meaningfully in these organizations to implement changes that create value for all. So hundreds of organizations, this is just a small sample. I want to say thanks for their contribution, and I want to move on to the topic. And the topic is, if we're talking about enterprise agile planning, creating value at scale by accelerating excellence, innovation, and transformation, we got to show some of the results. A lot of people talk about the concepts, but they don't discuss the results. So I want to talk about the results because I want to be very practical with you. And the results are reflected on this picture here. This is one of the many award shows that I have been privileged to be hired to moderate or be the MC for around the world. And this one happens to be the Business Transformation and Operational Excellence World Summit and our Digital Transformation Operational Excellence Awards 2021 that were held in Orlando last year. And on this stage, you have the best of the best. The leaders who are on stage are the award winners for Digital Transformation Operational Excellence in 2021. Now, to get to this stage is very hard because you have submissions from all over the world, from great organizations across all industries, and they believe that they are doing a great job on digital, on culture, business, and digital transformation. So first of all, here's one of the lessons that we have learned. For the people who are on that stage, nobody becomes a digital transformation world leader by just doing digital transformation. Digital transformation cannot be done at its highest level of impact by just transforming your organization or business digitally. That's not going to do it. Anybody can do a digital implementation here or there, or a few projects, multi-million-dollar projects, but that doesn't mean that you have digitally transformed. There is no digital transformation without meaningful business transformation. And there is no meaningful business transformation without a meaningful cultural transformation. So digital transformation requires business and cultural transformation to be sustainable. Now, and you say, think about the numbers here. The percentage of the organizations and leaders who get to be on that stage is very, very small. We have lots and lots of submissions. The judging panel goes through all of those submissions with a lot of rigor and evaluates the purpose, evaluates the results that those programs have, and they select the best of the best as finalists. And then out of the finalists, we select the award winners, and this is what you see on stage. But here's a number that very few people know about. I have been doing this now for about 3 decades. And when I look at these organizations who are the best of the best of the best, who are a very small percentage, who get to be on stage, if I track them for the next 3 years, 50% of their programs would have died as low def. That's it. The best of the best lose in 3 years. Within 5 years, 99% of those leaders and organizations have a program that has died as low def. So sustainability, as I mentioned before, achieving excellence is incredibly hard. Maintaining excellence is incredibly hard. It's much, much harder than achieving any level of excellence. So with this incredible challenge ahead of us, let's look at that 1% of the percent of the percent of the percent. And what is that they have? So if I look at what makes the best of the best fail within 5 years, what we discover is that there are 5 main areas, large, high-level areas in organizations that are blockers for this organization's speed, innovation, and growth. It's a combination of silos that happens as the organization keeps growing. There's a lack of faith in the objectives over time. There's no higher purpose that's driving this transformation. There is tremendous fear of failure and politics across all levels in the organization. And there are organizations and leaders who are unable to deal with uncertainty. This has shown up over and over again across all organizations. And behind, if you start looking for root causes, what are some of the drivers behind this blockers? What we learn is that these blockers emerge because of what we call the jaws of culture. It doesn't matter. You may have a very well-intended digital transformation program. You hire the best technical talent. You deploy the best technologies. But if it's not aligned with a clear purpose, a set of values, and a culture of excellence and innovation, you will fail over the long run. And this is what the evidence shows. Now, this is not a great motivating story for all of us, right? Basically, every one of our digital transformation programs are destined to fail. Not at a 70% or an 80% level, but at the 99% plus level over a 5-year period. And most organizations and leaders don't even stick around to see how it's going to play out. But what does that 1% of the percent look like? And so let's go to the fundamental issues that affect these organizations and how we can impact those fundamental issues in a positive way. So let's go back to basics. And I'm going to go through this fast because you are a very wise audience and I'm not going to bother you with very little semantics on things. So let's figure out what culture is, because it's the jaws of culture that's destroying our programs over time. So culture, keep it simple, is just the habits and the behaviors of individuals and teams in any organization. That's what culture is. It's not what people say, it's how they behave. Very well. But the question then, to use the words that our previous speakers have used, if you want to be intentional about your culture, the question becomes, how am I going to design a culture that's going to be successful? And this is a very difficult question, and the answers are not trivial. We have not found like a set of values, for example, that will guarantee that your culture will be healthy. We have not identified a specific set of combination of behaviors that will guarantee that your culture will be healthy. It depends on the purpose of the organization, depends on the values that are associated with that purpose. And then those values have to be built on a set of beliefs and mindsets. And those beliefs and mindsets had to be built on a set of clear, practical principles. And then that's not enough. Those principles must be translated into actions. And that translation of principles into actions is called mechanisms. So you need to have mechanisms to translate principles into actions. And those actions should demonstrate the behaviors of the organization. So what behaviors do you want to have to mold your culture is the question. We have found only one set of common behaviors across all great enduring organizations. And those organizations have what we call value creation behaviors. Now, before you start getting defensive and start saying, oh, there we go, it's all about money and finance. No, when I talk about value creation behaviors, these are behaviors that have either financial value creation or social value creation. But basically, every organization has a purpose, or at least should have. And if you have a clear purpose in your organization and you're serving the world with your organization, you better be creating value for someone out there. Whether it's financial value creation or social value creation, you must be creating value. Now, this sounds like common sense, but common sense is the least common of the senses in large organizations. And over time, organizations and cultures start shifting and become more internally focused and losing track of their purpose. And they're just moving around, carried by the waters and the rivers of trends in society. So having a clear purpose is very critical. Understanding what type of behaviors you're going to create, which should be value creation behaviors, is very, very important. Because as I mentioned before, most transformations will fail because transformations are hard, because your culture will resist what they most need to change. And if you're not creating value with that transformation, why in the world are you doing it? Because remember, organizations are like people, and they are not wired for change and innovation and collaboration. They are wired for safety and predictability. You must understand that. No matter what you're trying to do, there will be a culture resistance to what you most need to change. And if you do not have a value proposition to help you overcome that, why are you doing it? So consider that thoughtfully. Now let's get more positive here and let's move towards how these organizations that succeed do it. So I wanna before I tell you, I want you to think about it ahead of time. And I would like you to ask you to consider that there are four areas that these organizations consider very thoughtfully and very intentionally in their success journey. And my question to you is that what do you think it matters most? It's ideas, is it methods, is it technologies, or is it people? So you don't have to tell it to me. Think about yourself, write it down. What do you think matters most on this journey of successful transformation in the organizations that do it very well? So let's pick ideas. We may say it's ideas because yes, we need new ideas. We need innovation. We need new ideas that create value for us. So ideas are very important, José. Yeah, I'll say yes, that's true. But I will also say that ideas in your organization are everywhere. What are common in your organization are people who are willing to put their reputation behind those ideas. Okay, José, so it must be methods, right? Because I know that methods are very important. We've been talking about this. We're talking about the mechanism to translate the principles into action. Methods provide a discipline framework for implementation of this value creation behaviors. Well, true, right? We have Agile and Scrum and Lean and Six Sigma and Advanced Business Process Management and ProSci and EDCAR, and you pick the abbreviation that's most useful to you. But I'm going to tell you what we have learned from this great enduring organizations is that they have methods, but they also know that methods alone do not transform businesses. People do. I always tell people that I have been a certified Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt for nearly 3 decades. For most people, that sounds like a dangerous mental condition. It doesn't help them. How does a set of methodologies help me transform my organization? Methods alone do not transform businesses. People do. Remember that. Now it must be technologies then, right, José? Because I see you're talking all this technology conferences around the world, talking about RPA and process mining and natural language processing and artificial intelligence and blockchain and UAVs and all sorts of exponential technologies that are reshaping the way we work and the way we live. Yes, that is true. We live in a world where technology can be a wonderful disruptor and creator of new opportunities. But if you listen to me in those conferences, you also hear me saying that technologies can make stupid happen at the speed of light. So, wow, that's a bit of a contradiction. So it must be people, right? You've talked about people multiple times, so it must be people because people are our most important asset, right? Well, it's very tempting to say that, but I'm not giving you theoretical answers. We're looking for the behaviors and practical approaches of the organizations that are successful in this journey. And unfortunately, they don't say that people are their most important asset. In reality, a lot of times when they go through crisis, people go and most of their assets remain untouched. So if the people were the most important asset, they wouldn't touch the people, right? Now, listen, I'm not saying that people do not have intrinsic value. We all do. But in great enduring organizations, they are looking for the people who are considered to be the right people for their purpose, the right people for their culture, the right people for their values, the right people who will amplify the values and behaviors that you want to demonstrate in your culture. And those right people are different. And I'm gonna show it to you later on how you find those right people in your organization. So this is all part of a system. So you must be quite confused by everything that I've said because it seems like I'm contradicting myself. Well, the world of greatness is filled with seemingly contradictions, forces pulling in very different directions. And this is a great lesson from enduring leaders and organizations. While simple minds like to look for simple solutions, oh, it's either A or B, the world of greatness is not an or world. The world of greatness is an and world because the best solutions are typically not on the ends of the distribution, but it's on the intelligent blending of these forces that pull in very different directions. And there are no greater forces pulling different directions than the forces of excellence and the forces of innovation. And what we have learned is that mediocre organizations, they focus on one or the other. The mediocre organizations will try to be the most excellent, operational excellence, business excellent organization they can be. And there's nothing wrong with that. By all means, excellence is worth pursuing. You should have high performance standards and you should have the systems and mechanisms to meet and exceed those performance standards consistently. That is wonderful. That's the world of excellence. But if you only do that and only that, you will become obsolete over time. So you must say, oh, okay, José, so must be on the other side of the equation, right? It must be the world of innovation that ultimately dominates, that the most innovative organizations are the great enduring organizations of our time, right? Wrong. That sounds very good on the media, but if you follow the track record of the most innovative organizations in the world, they die a slow death. They pride themselves on being nimble, quick, and innovate, fast to change. But when you look at their performance over time, it's a zigzag on a flat line. Why is that? Because they fall in love with innovation or they fall in love with technology for its own sake. The signature of mediocrity is not an unwillingness to change. The signature of mediocrity is chronic inconsistency with your purpose. And the most innovative organizations, they tend to be chronically inconsistent with their purpose. They lose track of their purpose. So it's neither the most excellent nor the most innovative organization that will be the great enduring and dominant organization in their fields over time. What we have learned is that the great enduring organizations, they actually have an intelligent blend of excellence and innovation. By all means, they have a foundation of excellence, but they also have the discipline to step away from the excellence they have created, look at it from a distance and say, there's got to be a better way that's not only 5 or 10% better, but 5 or 10-fold better. And once they find that better way, and this is the key, they do not fall in love with that better way, or they do not follow the technologies around it. They stay consistent with their purpose, and what they do that's different from the other organizations, that they scale the innovations that they have created consistent with their purpose. And how do they do that systematically? They scale the innovations they're created consistent with their purpose by applying the principles of excellence to the innovations that they have created. This is a little confusing because great enduring organizations, they meld, they blend intelligently excellence and innovation in their journey. This is not easy to do because the world of excellence and the world of innovation kind of has a friction with each other. They disdain each other a bit. But great enduring organizations realize that you don't get to design cars by squeezing efficiencies out of horses. Yet, you need the efficiency and scalability capabilities that you develop in the world of excellence to scale innovation consistently with your purpose. Now, I could spend an entire day just on this. I don't have the time. I want to just give you the insight, and I want you to think about it. And I want you to think about organizations that are not good for 1 or 2 years, but they're good for 5, 10, and great for more than 10 years. And you may say, well, do those organizations even exist? And I'll say, yes, they do. And I'll share some of them with you. Now, this is all kind of interesting and theoretical based on collaboration, but I want to internalize and share some key concepts based on my own personal experiences as a global leader of excellence in innovations for well-known organizations. So when I started my career, my background's in engineering, physics, and investment banking. So I started my career as the technology developer for Sony, where Sony was a leader in the world for technology development. And I'll summarize these insights here for you, but I was super excited about it. When I started my job, I was based in California and with operations in Japan, of course. We were part of the most advanced technology center in the world at that time for displays, called the Atsugi Research Center in Osaka, Japan. And when I got my first job, my boss, his name was Shigo Hayashi-san. He had an assignment for me from the first week at Sony. And I was super excited. I thought I was going to get a lot of training on the new technologies, on how to be a technology developer in a company like Sony. But he had different plans for me. And I'll summarize that for you, and because I want to get you the lessons quickly for you. In my first week of work, he asked me to identify 100 innovations. And I look at him and says, time out. How am I going to identify 100 innovations in a place that I know nothing about? He looked at me on the third and said, you must do. And I was like, wow, this must be some sort of cultural shock that I'm having here because I don't know how to do this. And that week was one of the worst weeks of my life. I had no idea how to identify 100 innovations in a place that seemed to have been designed by the best minds, researchers, scientists, and engineers in the world. I thought I was going to lose my job by the end of that week. By the end of the week, I came up with like 20 items. I basically spent the whole week talking to everybody, going deep into the different technologies and things that we're doing at the company. And I came up with like 20 things that were worthwhile. And then out of those 20 things, I needed 100. So I put up a bunch of fluff in my report. But sure enough, on Friday, I had a 100 item report with 10 best items in the beginning of the report, 10 best items at the end of the report, and a bunch of fluff in the middle. I learned how to write reports in college, right? So I delivered to Hayashi's-san, and he proceeds to go through every one of the items in my report, one by one. I was totally distraught because I knew that the report towards the middle wasn't very good. And even in the beginning, it wasn't very good in hindsight. But he was going and asking me meaningful questions about each one of the ideas that I have. By the middle of the report, he looks at me and says, José-san, how come you're so stupid? And I was so unprepared for that question that I blurred out, I'm not sure. And which just made me look dumber. He looked at me and said, your problem is that you think too much like an engineer. You must learn to listen to the process, which that didn't help me because there was some sort of Asian wisdom that I couldn't grasp. And so I went home completely dejected. And I spent the whole weekend thinking about how I'm going to exact revenge on Hayashi-san. I was so upset about the whole event the first week. And then after much deliberation on the weekend and rationalizing, I thought, I'm not going to let that man define who I am. I'm going to go back there on Monday, and I'm going to go with an open mind, and I'm going to go show him what I can do. So I go back on Monday. He comes back to me talking Japanese. Ohayou gozaimasu, José-san. How are you? Big smile. Tell me, José-san, this week I have a new assignment for you. When he said that, the weight of the world lift off my shoulders. And I said, okay, great. Now I'm on to my next journey here. This is where my training will start. I finally will get the rotational program that I've been looking for. Hayashi-san looks at me and says, José-san, this week you identify 200 innovations. Ladies and gentlemen, I lowered my shoulders. I thought about punching the man, but I didn't. I went out in the second week and identified 200 innovations. Here's why I take the time telling the story. Hayashi-san is one of the greatest innovation leaders I have ever worked with, been mentored by, and a true partner throughout my entire career. To this day, he leads innovation in displays for Sony in Japan. The lesson that I want to share with you, there are a couple of lessons that are very important. There are many more, but I won't have time for a couple. First one, when it comes to real innovation, innovation doesn't care about your gender, race, ethnicity, or how many certificates you have hanging on the I love myself wall. Innovation doesn't care about that. You're creating something new. When you're creating something new, it's really less about what you know, and it becomes more about your ability to learn fast, but most important, the 4 traits that separate real innovators from the wannabes. And real innovators, they show these traits, but these traits are only revealed by the test of innovation execution. You can review resumes until your face is blue, and you're not going to find real innovators by reviewing resumes. You're going to find real innovators by creating a meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms, and it is the test of innovation execution that's going to reveal the true innovators. As simple as that. And then what you see, that there are 4 traits or behaviors that you can say that they exhibit. There are the behaviors of innovators. So what are those behaviors? And this is what I want you to remember. First of all, they have purpose alignment. They have an alignment between the purpose of that they have as an individual and the purpose of the work that they do. If that's misaligned, it's not going to work. So they have some level of alignment. But next, what they exhibit is that they have passion, they have high levels of discipline, and they have resilience. Purpose, passion, discipline, and resilience separates the real innovators from the wannabes. Now, I can spend a lot of time talking about passion, discipline, resilience because it's not probably what you think it is. For example, passion is not serendipitous love. It's a lot more like an arranged marriage. Discipline is not following a regimented set of rules. Monkeys can do that. Discipline is consistency with purpose. And resilience is not being stubborn and never giving up. Resilience is overcoming challenges collaboratively and pivoting when you need to because you're willing to withstand the pain of the longer journey for that purpose. But we don't have time to dive deep. Just remember, purpose, passion, discipline, resilience is what you're looking for. But the other component and lesson from that experience is very important as well. Because you may be thinking, wow, you see what José was saying is that in the mindset, what Hayashi-san was doing is probing the mindset of the innovator, of the novice. Because in the mind of a novice, there are many ways, and that's where innovation comes from. And that is true. And that is true. But also, I want you to remember that the mindset of the novice alone is not enough. Because novices do not know how to scale what they come up with. Now, the other mindset is the mindset of an expert. And the mindset of an expert is actually difficult for innovation because the mindset of an expert, there's only one way, and they lose perspective. But before you throw your experts away, here's something that you have to value on them. They have learned and they have the ability to scale what they do, their expertise. So the question is, should you have the mindset of the novice or the mindset of the expert? And the answer for that again is both. Great enduring leaders, they have both the mindset of the novice and the mindset of the expert intelligently blended. So if you're more of a novice, you need to develop some expertise. If you're more of an expert, you need to develop an open mind and ability to take different perspectives as a novice does. So it's not one or the other. Again, the world of greatness is an and world. These lessons are very important. Develop the mindset of the novice, develop the mindset of the expert at the same time. Find people, the right people in your organization who have purpose, passion, discipline, and resilience. Those are the ones who are going to help you transform. All right. So what is the next lessons here in a summarized fashion? At Cymer SML, this company revolutionized the world. I felt that Sony was going to more of a commercial path, and I want to join a startup that was going to change the world, and I was blessed with that opportunity. Cymer SML in the 1990s was able to create new technologies that accelerated Moore's law in the semiconductor industry. And Moore's law is your basically our ability to make semiconductor circuits smaller and smaller. Okay. And in 1990s, we thought that that's it. It's as small as it gets. There comes a company with new technologies that allow the semiconductor industry to this day to continue to grow exponentially. Now, when they started, they came from a different industry. They were in the defense industry, and they came up and disrupted the semiconductor industry. But for several years, they couldn't get anywhere because they got the best scientists in the world in one building in California, and the best scientists in the world, the most intelligent people in the world around on the subject. They spent their whole time trying to prove to everybody else in the room that they were the smartest person in the room. So we could not scale our innovation until we develop this very critical skill set that you must develop in your organization. And it is called collaborative leadership skills. It's not enough just to have the most intelligent people in the room. Intelligence does matter, okay? Integrity, intelligence, and energy are critical for success. But we must scale towards our purpose, and we can only scale towards our purpose if we develop collaborative leadership skills. And collaborative leadership skills, in a nutshell, is the ability for you to surround yourself with people with different perspectives who are willing to voice those different perspectives without fear of retaliation. And there's a whole set of practices and methodologies and techniques for collaborative skill development, collaborative leadership skill development. Now, collaborative leadership skill is as a core competency for you as a leader and for your organization. Keep that in mind. When I left that startup, I had the big company experience, I had the startup experience, and Nestle was looking for someone who was going to do just that, bring kind of the entrepreneurial spirit to a very large organization. Now, Nestle at that time had 350,000 employees with more than 585 business units around the world. How do you accelerate excellence, innovation, and transformation in a system that big? Well, the short answer is culture. You gotta pull on the levers of culture. Now, the ultimate lesson is that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Excellence, innovation, and your program is just a side dish in the jaws of culture. So how do you address culture? There's a long story there, but I'll summarize by saying that first, you must show empathy for the people who are there. You must understand the history of the organization and the location, and you must understand how they got to where they are. So do not go in there and just try to change what you don't understand. Have empathy, show respect for the current culture, meet them where they're at, and then bring them along by creating for them the most value in the shortest time and simplest means. Stop preaching to them. Start demonstrating how you're going to create the most value in the shortest time and simplest means by implementing new ways of thinking and new ways of doing things. And then they will come along, and that's how you bring them along. Now, the next case here, a company called Black & Veatch, an extraordinary company with more than 100 years of success in global infrastructure development in energy, water, and telecommunications. 12,000 pure engineers who are changing the world for more than 100 years. CEO picks me up and says, can you build a culture of excellence and innovation and transform us? That was a monumental task for an organization that's so entrenched. So the practical examples of results here that I think is important that I share with you, not just platitudes, is that when I first got there, I already mentioned to you before, the focus should be on the intelligent blending of ideas, methods, technologies, and people. When I first mentioned that, I realized that the culture was not ready for that. Because in a culture with 12,000 highly technical engineers, they wanted to focus on what? On ideas, methods, and technologies. And they were very methodology driven. So what did I do? Did I emphasize people at that point? No. I had to show respect for that culture, for its history, meet them where they're at, create value on their terms, and build alliances so that I can bring people as a new component over time. And for 6 years, we did that. We implemented a very disciplined Lean Six Sigma program for value creation. We're very, very successful doing that. And by year 6, and let me remind you, by year 6, which means that we're part of the 1%, because 50% of the other companies had failed by year 3, 99% had failed by year 5, no matter what programs they were doing. So we got to year 6, and I had built the capital, the relationships, and the insights to transform that culture. Now, what did we do? Now I can say, you know what? With ideas, methods, and technologies, we're going to do good, but we'll never be great. How do you achieve greatness? It's not about just ideas, methods, and technologies. We must have that, but we must really focus on people. Not all people. We must make it inclusive and bring all people into the fold, but make no mistake, we're creating a meritocracy of ideas and clear execution mechanisms to identify the right people. And we did that. We make it accessible to all. We create a meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms. But now we're saying that we're looking for people with purpose, passion, discipline, and resilience to collaboratively lead the implementation of new ideas that create value. And this focus on the right people was tough in the beginning. We're scared. Is this going to work or not? We're going from being kind of like tidy on the smart engineers to open up to anybody in the organization who had the entrepreneurial spirit and a good idea and the purpose and the passion and discipline and the resilience to develop that idea and implement it. So we opened that up as a trial, and we were widely successful over time. By year 10, we had an 800% improvement in financial results and over 1,000% improvement in voluntary engagement around the world. It has never been done up to that point, and it has never been done to that extent since. Such was the success of the initiative. And then they won several awards for excellence, for innovation, for transformation. They were voted the #1 US private company for leaders and leadership development. Then I decided, okay, let's take on an even bigger challenge. Let's take on a company now that is an energy company, and this company has no competitive advantage, but wants to go for extraordinary. And the name of this company originally was Tesoro Corporation, an oil and gas company in the southwest of the United States, focused mainly on that geography, that was doing not so well. And then a leadership team comes in, and the CEO of the company, Greg Goff, he comes in and says, you know what, let's start building financial stability and build a culture of greatness in this organization. How was that done? Well, it wasn't great to start because this company was a $2 billion company in 2010, which was the book value of the company was higher than that. So the market value of the company was less than its book value, which means that the market was looking at this company as going towards bankruptcy. So comes in a great leadership team that's looking at it and say, you know what, we got to build our culture as our ultimate competitive advantage. By all means, we need to develop some level of financial stability. We got to be smart in a transactional sense, but that's not enough. We also need to build a culture of excellence, of innovation, of collaboration. So how do they do that? Very simple, the same way that I mentioned before. Meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms. Widely developed collaborative leadership skills across the organization for everyone in the organization. By 8 years later, by 2018, this organization was identifying, prioritizing, implementing to full conclusion and validation more than 2,000 innovation projects on an annual basis. These were yielding additional EBITDA or earnings for the organization beyond $1 billion annually. These are tremendous results. But you may say, I don't believe the results. Maybe these results are not real, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So not only these results were externally reported, but I think that the market valuation of the company speaks highly. And by 2018, this organization in an 8-year journey was valued at $35 billion. Now, what is the key differentiator here? Building a culture as your ultimate competitive advantage, a culture of excellence, of innovation, of collaboration, with no gimmicks, true mechanisms that translate the principles into action, a meritocracy of ideas with widely available collaborative leadership skills, and innovation execution skills. Remember that one, please. This is the formula. But it's not easy to do, because to be successful, you have to be clear on that purpose, and you have to be chronically consistent with that purpose. Because remember, the signature of mediocrity is not an unwillingness to change. The signature of mediocrity in organizations and leaders is chronic inconsistency with their purpose. So let's unleash the power of our people to go for extraordinary by being chronically consistent with our purpose, have very clear purpose, and then having clear values associated with that purpose, demonstrating those values, clear mindsets and principles around that purpose, and then having mechanisms that translate those principles into actions. And those actions are value creation actions, and value creation actions become value creation behaviors. And I go back to, that's how you build a culture as your ultimate competitive advantage. Very good, José, but boy, let's summarize it all and let's see why so many companies struggle doing this. So my first question to you is that we live in a time of incredible uncertainty, where exponential technologies are reshaping the way we work, we live, geopolitical forces, and God knows when the next pandemic is going to hit us. So in a world that is fast changing and non-linear, there are only two types of people who predict the future: those who don't know, and those who don't know that they don't know. This is very important to keep in mind, because the organizations, they become insecure, and they get in big meetings and they're trying to decide how we're going to predict the future. And they hire experts for millions of dollars, the incredible amount of time and money on forecasting and scenario planning. And none of those things can predict the future, because all those things are in place, and none of them identify a pandemic happening in 2020. Well, and this is happening again. We're trying to predict the future by these traditional methods that cannot predict the future. Nobody can predict the future, and you cannot outsource that thinking and those actions in your organizations, because the only way for you to predict the future is to create it. This is not new. Again, one of those things that maybe it's common sense, but common sense is the least common of the senses in your organization, because it's hard to do. Because what we need to do is to set the stage for innovation in our organizations. And to set the stage for innovation in our organizations, we need to know that extraordinary innovation requires ordinary definitions, accessible to all. So what is innovation then, José? It's super simple. Innovation is simply the implementation of new ideas that create value. That's it. Please take this as a gift. Do not complicate it. It's only the implementation of new ideas that create value. This is a core capability that everybody in the organization must have. It's not a nice to have or should have. You must have it. If you're in our organization and you don't understand that your job is to implement new ideas that create value, you don't understand what you're doing. This organization does not have a clear purpose, and you're certainly misaligned in your purpose in that organization. This is what we all should do. But the keynote here is not coming up with new ideas. Anybody can do that. It's coming up with new ideas that create value for others. And coming up with new ideas that create value for others is not enough. You must fully implement and realize that value. Because until then, it's not an innovation yet. It's just an idea with potential. So what do we see in organizations that are dominant? They have maturity value levels for innovation value creation. They know that innovation and value creation are inextricably linked. And you may be a multi-million-dollar organization by just having a very smart entrepreneur, okay? That's all you need. You need individual brilliance with passion, discipline, resilience. You get that person to, to create a new technology, a new idea, and they'll come up with a multi-million-dollar business. But they're not going to be sustainable and become a multi-billion-dollar business over time unless they're able to scale that individual brilliance. And how do multi-billion sustainable organizations do it? They do it by scaling innovation systems and mechanisms, by creating governance with clear structure and roles, by creating growth and technology accelerators which are disciplined in their approach. And they will become and maintain multi-billion-dollar systems and organizations. That's wonderful. And for most organizations, that will be the best they'll ever do. But if you want to be part of the great club, if you want to be part of the multi-trillion-dollar organizations, what can we learn from them? What do they do that builds on these other items? It doesn't throw away these other items. It builds on it. And what they have are the skills that I want to share with you, and I want you to remember. They have widely dispersed collaborative leadership skills and innovation, acceleration, or execution skills. That's built on a clear purpose, a strong culture with a strong set of core values. But collaborative leadership skills and innovation execution skills are the skills that we have to equip the right people in the organization to amplify the values of the organization and the success of the organization. Okay, so remember, building a culture of collaboration, of innovation, and value creation is the ultimate competitive advantage for any organization. So as a reminder, what matters most? Ideas, methods, technologies, or people? It's none of the above and all of the above. It's the intelligent blending of ideas, methods, technologies, and people. And people, I'll give a slight edge to people, but it's especially the right people. And who are these right people, José? These right people are people with 4 traits that are revealed by the test of innovation execution. And those traits are: they have purpose, they have passion, they have discipline, and they have resilience. Remember that. That's who you're looking for. Now, they will amplify the values of your organization, because here's what happens. In most organizations, you have 80% of the people in there who are getting paid and going through the motion, but they're what I call sour face. By the way, these people, from a US perspective, they make more than $100,000 per year, and it's still, they're sour faced. 80% plus of them. And then 20% of them are kind of delusionally happy, and you don't know why. Some of them may be a little bit nuts, and some of them may have found an alignment between their individual purpose and the purpose of the work that they do. Imagine that. Well, what if you can engineer to have more people fulfilled by that, by aligning the purpose of themselves with the purpose of the work that they do? So what do? You create mechanisms for that. You first stand up excellence and innovation, and you say, you know what? We have an open system here, a meritocracy of ideas. We're going to create clear execution mechanisms to find the collaborative leaders of innovation for value creation and excellence and innovation for value creation. So we're going to inspire self-motivated individuals in the organization by giving them a chance to showcase their capabilities. We say that we'll give you 20% time to show us what you can do for this organization. But here's the catch. You do not remove responsibility. The accountability is on them to identify, prioritize, and execute what creates the most value in the shortest time and simplest means for this organization. Your job as a leader is to create a system, a disciplined approach for identifying, prioritizing, and executing on those ideas and supporting them. But make no mistake, they must lead. They, like Hachi-san said, they must do. They must have the courage and discipline to act. So you inspire the self-motivated individuals, and then you create a very clear mechanism of execution for those ideas that are prioritized and aligned with the strategy and the value creation for this organization. So as you do that, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy here, where the ones with passion, discipline, resilience, and purpose alignment, they'll have what it takes to get it done and implement new ideas that create value. That point is when you validate that these are the people with passion, discipline, resilience. And I challenge you to create the system and see that you're going to validate that those are the right people. What do you do with those right people? You showcase them and their teams to the organization, because you're showcasing their behaviors and their team's behaviors to the organization. Because the skeptical ones who are not sure now look at it and say, hey, José and the team did this? Well, I can't believe that José and the team deliver $3 million in value in the next 3 months with this innovation project. José is as dumb as a door. I work with José. Well, you know what, Chris? José is no better than you are. So if you think he's dumb as a door, you can do it too. Go do it, Chris. Meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms. Don't just complain, show what you can do. And it's amazing that over time, if you do this consistently with your purpose, you're going to have an alignment now in your organization because you have a clear execution mechanism. And the people who believe that they cannot use that job to align their individual purpose with the purpose of their work, they're going to flock into this, trust me. And they're going to be super engaged into this. And this is what we have seen in great enduring organizations, and I'm sharing this with you. So I want to summarize and wrap up for us. The great culture that you want to create and the great people that you want to attract, or the next level innovators, they're not going to come to you from Google, from Meta, from Tesla, from the next big innovation company. No, these people, I mean, you can hire some new people, but the majority of them already work for you. They are suffocating because they do not know how to align their individual purpose with the purpose of the work that they do. And your job is not to decide it for them. Your job is to create a meritocracy of ideas with clear execution mechanisms that allow them to self-align, allow them to identify what's going to create the most value in the shortest time and simplest means, and have them show their gifts that they can bring to this organization. And where you're going to see that they're going to emerge. And your job now as a leader is by all means to equip them with the right skills for them to be successful. And what are the right skills to equip them with? Collaborative leadership skills and innovation skills. And collaborative leadership skills, we talk a lot about them, but let's talk a little bit about innovation skills. The essence of innovation is very simple. It's just the ability to take a different perspective at a problem or opportunity. So you need to have the mind of the novice, because the cat and the kid, they have a different perspective on the fish naturally. So you need diversity of thought around the issues. And then you need to equip people with the disciplines of innovation. How do you build this capability of having diverse perspectives on issues and being able to scale that? So collaborative leadership skills and innovation, discipline, innovation, execution skills is what we equip them with. And then what we do after that, José, then you leave it up to them to own it, because they must have the courage and discipline to execute. Because there will always be risks, and their job is to manage risks so that they are successful in this scary journey. Because to lead something new especially requires courage. You cannot remove that. You cannot remove courage from the equation. You can put all the safety mechanisms in place, but you still must take the leap. And they have to showcase to you their ability to lead with courage and discipline, their ability to lead collaboratively and with the discipline, innovation, execution skills that you have provided them with. Now, while you support them on this journey, you must also work on the environment. You must create an environment in your organization where these great people who are emerging and these senior leaders who are there already, that you build communities, you build environments where these great people and their great ideas can connect. And this is when you really see an exponential increase in innovation and excellence and value creation organizations and the acceleration of the transformation, because you're getting the key influencers in the organization properly equipped to create value at scale. They are aligning their purpose, so they enjoy what they do tremendously. So it's a very good, positive environment. And now you're connecting them with each other so that you can scale that even further. Ultimately, you have to create an environment where these great people and these great ideas can connect. So ladies and gentlemen, to wrap up today, nobody can predict the future. You cannot, I cannot. But what the evidence has shown to us repeatedly and consistently is that building a culture of excellence and innovation is our ultimate competitive advantage. A culture that's built with the behaviors that are built upon very clear mechanisms on how you're going to go from purpose and values and mindsets and beliefs and principles, and translating those principles through mechanisms that translate principles into action. And those actions are value creation actions on a culture of excellence and innovation blended. And then, of course, we have collaboration, and we have people with purpose, passion, discipline, resilience driving that for you. So It's been a pleasure to be here with you today. If you want to continue to follow our journey of global excellence and innovation and transformation acceleration around the world, I post most of the public things that I do, and I'm allowed to. I post on LinkedIn, and you can see the events and the experiences that we have across all industries, and you can follow me and connect with me that way. So let's wrap up. This wraps up my presentation. You can connect with me on LinkedIn on the post that I have for Enterprise Agile Planning. Ask any follow-up questions if you'd like to. I'm going to change hats, stop sharing the screen, and I'm going to change hats back to conference chair and say a few words here to wrap up our great day together. I hope you had a great day. I had a wonderful day with all of you, and very grateful for your time, very grateful for your engagement and collaboration throughout this day. We had tremendous questions come through, and several of you have gone and messaged me on LinkedIn, and that's terrific as well. Go ahead and say thanks. My ask for you is that we have Scale Agile as a sponsor for this conference. They allow all of this to be accessible to you at no cost. So please go into the post on LinkedIn, say thanks to Scale Agile, say thanks to Audrey for sponsoring the event, for giving this access to all of us at no cost. Over 1,200 professionals around the world will be benefit from this. Say thank you to them because they deserve that. Say thank you to all of our other speakers who have been here sharing their wisdom and expertise with all of us so generously. So take the time, say thank you, connect with them. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of connecting with them, saying hello, saying thanks. You know, part of building that environment of great people and great ideas can connect. This is what the Proqis events are all about. So connect with people. Don't be afraid of connecting with people. We have great people here who are leading with an open heart and trying to do good. Think about this, 100 years from now, we're all gonna be dead. So what we do between now and then is meaningful. So connect with each other, try to build and create value for others that way. And this is a wonderful community here that we have created around the world for that, approaching 1 million professional participants all around the world. Now, stay connected for the next events that are coming up. I also have to say a huge thanks to Imran Khan, who has been tremendous in putting this conference together. There's so many moving pieces, aligning schedules and getting everybody to collaborate for this to happen. A lot of technical aspects, a lot of organizational aspects that need to be figured out. So we couldn't do this without the leadership from Imran Khan, who's behind the scenes producing this conference and many greater conferences that are gonna come. You're gonna stay tuned for the next conference will be in oil and gas, and there are many other great conferences coming. Of course, Vijay Bajaj, great Vijay, has been a partner for probably more than 2 decades now. He's the CEO of Proqis Digital, and he allows us to create an environment like this where great people and great ideas can connect. So Vijay, thank you for your leadership. Brian Raffel, who's behind the scenes, always connecting with speakers, connecting with great organizations and sponsors to bring value to us. And one final thank you to Scale Agile for bringing world-class virtual events to a global audience at no cost. We truly appreciate what you're doing for us. Stay tuned for our next conference. Next conference will be focused on oil and gas and the energy industry. The energy industry is going through a multi-trillion-dollar transformation that impacts everyone. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're watching this, you're impacted by the energy industry. Trust me. And you have to be aware of what's going on there and what are the practices that are being used by the leading energy companies around the world. So oil and gas conference will come up. And in the meantime, stay connected, drop on LinkedIn, say hello, say thanks. I hope whatever you are in the world, you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. So long for now, and we'll be in touch.